I've talked to at least 15,000 single people now. So now I learned a thing or two. Most women want a man of you guys' caliber. You know, you guys, I'm going to give you your kudos. You're successful men, you're attractive men, well-spoken men, black men, you know, do well, you do for the community. They all want you. Now, it doesn't matter if she's rich or poor, fine or not that attractive, they all want you. Now, we know the truth of the matter is you guys represent, really when it comes down to it, not the larger portion of the masses. You guys literally might be 10%, might even be less than that. You might be like the 5%ers, the 1%ers, but it doesn't matter because 100% of the women all want you. So what happens is, what I've learned is social media has given people insights to other people's lives. So every girl wants a man that makes bare minimum 100K, has to be attractive, faithful, prefers no kids. If she has kids, love her kids like they are your kids, treat her kids like you created her kids, show up for her when she needs you to show up for her, go to church with her every day, don't ever speak to another woman, always be available, but work so much that you can fulfill my lifestyle. It's crazy. I'll save it for listen, my next division is the AI guy. I'm going to make the 6'6" AI human-like man because it's literally the only man that represents this. And I think that what I've come to learn is women get really offended because they use settling. I hate the word settling because if you say, oh, you're saying I'm not good enough for a man that makes 100K. And their argument will be, well, I make that or more. So it only makes sense for me to require a man that makes what I want or more. Logically speaking, I get that. I don't have a disagreement there. But the part that they're missing, which matters the most, is that man doesn't date the same. A lot of times the wealthy man or the man that has the money, he doesn't want a broke girl, but he has enough. He goes into it knowing he's paying for everything, right? So even though you have a certain lifestyle, this man in his mind, I still got to pay for everything. So your money doesn't matter that much.
Welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen, so you already know what I'm about. So let's get into it. So very first thing I want to do is that's Kendra G, if you did not know Kendra G, and that's also Earn Your Leisure, if you do not know about Earn Your Leisure. They're basically these black men that talk about, you know, making money, and they have a lot of concept about investments. And I've told you a little bit about me. I actually do, in a lot of my social media, I do follow people that invest, that are talking about making money, you know, different things like that. I mean, recently, actually, Earn Your Leisure kind of got on my nerves a little bit because they started to leak into the dating space. And I just kind of felt like that's really not their lane. But what I have noticed is that they've brought a lot of people on in order to talk about the dating thing. So it's not just them talking about it. It's them bringing on people that, you know, are in the space a lot more. Now, I will also want to give a shout out, you know, because this was sent to me by Humble Dad. Many of you know I did a collab with him recently. And so I also wanted to give him a shout out. Now, before I go into my take on this, I did want to go into one or two of the comments. So one of the comments, you know, says, you know, this is Kevin Samuels, and, you know, no one wanted to hear him. Somebody else said, okay, this is another person, that's Kevin Samuels. And then another person says, the most mature way to approach this conversation is to focus on what you're looking for. I've never understood the emphasis on talking about what the masses want. That's their business. Whatever you want from whoever work. People really got to get some stuff in it, but whatever. Towards that, whatever you want from, I guess, a man, work towards that and attain that. Everything else is a waste of air. Focus on building yourself wherever you need to, and then be attracted to that. The final one, I would want to know how Kendra feels about her previous conversation with Kevin Samuels, telling her these exact same words. What I've learned, and it was funny because, you know, again, a lot of people love to talk about Kevin Samuels because that's who they know. And I remember when we first started Christian Singles Connect, and we were doing a lot of online meetings. And back then, our average meeting might have been 35 to 45 people. And we would do these little Zoom calls on Saturday morning. And people were coming in, and they were actually talking about, you know, Kevin. They would talk about Kevin Samuels a lot. And it was really interesting because I would always say to them, like, we say the same thing over here at Christian Singles Connect that Kevin Samuels would say as far as the base understanding. The only difference is we're not cussing you out, you know. And that was always funny to me because I do think people take things differently. And even, to quote, Lauryn Hill, and I know this is a Christian channel, but I'm hoping that you will follow me with this. But she will she had this one quote in one of her songs where she said, after all my knowledge and my theory, I add a mother, so you ignorant is hear me. Okay. And there is a point where a lot of people, I think they have a hard time just accepting, knowledge if it's not given in the way that they are used to it or the way that they want it. And unfortunately, a lot of black people are more used to people criticizing them and downing them that they're not able to make the transition. But one of the things I think is interesting about this, and this is really where I'm starting to go into my commentary about this, is that I believe that this is the natural understanding of anyone who spends lots and lots of time in the dating space. That's just it. I don't really care if it's Kevin Samuels. I don't care if it's Tony Gaskins. I don't care if it's Stefan Speaks. I don't care if it's Matthew Hussey. I don't care who you're listening to. Okay, even a lot of the people on the manosphere. It doesn't matter who you're listening to. Everybody comes to the exact same conclusion. There is something in the literal makeup of women that they just crave the top tier man. That's just what it is. And this is one of the reasons why I always encourage men to do their best to level up. Okay? And a lot of men, I think they're intimidated by the concept of leveling up. But it's really not that difficult to do. And it'll actually bless your life a lot more than it will hurt your life. I mean, we could all use an extra, few dollars or whatever here and there. And then health, like I'm always pushing health, working out, different things like that is also going to help you as well. But I have to, in this particular video, like I say, not only agree with what Kendra G is saying, because I've learned this as well. While I do find that not all women are like this, I do find that a good portion of them are. And when I say this, I'm not saying this, like I say, to go against women. But I think the concept here, which again, a lot of people in the dating space talk about, is accountability. See, there is a point where a woman has to say, okay, maybe I am not all of what I think I am. And maybe, my parents, even my dad in some situations might have taught me that I am this super, queen or whatever sitting on a throne. But while I have that as a potential, and maybe that is my quote unquote heritage, in the world, people see me differently. And I think that is why so many men are always telling women to humble themselves. And I think that those words humble and settle bother women at the core. Because I believe a lot of them believe that through that, they're not going to have the life that they want. And I'll admit, and I want the women that have decided to watch this video to listen to me when I say this. I understand that that's a tricky thing to navigate, an extremely tricky thing to navigate. If you're a woman and you've been watching me for any length of time, and I know people pick and choose what videos they watch. Instead of watching all, they pick and choose. So there might have been information that you missed. But I have never encouraged women to go for what I call the average guy. But how you define the average guy and how I define the average guy could be different. And what do I mean by this? What I'm talking about is I would love for the women of America, the Western women, to see into a man's heart, to see into his mind, to see that, whether that is average or not his outside, not what you think he can do for you, but who he is as a man. And what I find is a lot of women will put up with bad energy on the inside of a man so that they can get what looks like a great man on the outside. Recently, literally last night, I was hanging out at an event and I ran into a guy, and it was so funny because me and him, he was actually into personality. And, many of you know that have been hanging out with me, I'm really into personality. I talk about personality traits and temperament and different things like that all the time. And me and him had the exact same, personality type. And he talked about how difficult, sometimes it has been for him in dating. And he's about my height, the whole 9 yards. And what was really funny was he's white and I'm black. And we talked about, what we wanted out of life, the type of things that we were going for. And it was almost like we were saying the exact same story. And he's sitting there in this zipped up hoodie, chilling, just sitting there talking to me, isn't dressed up, has no jewelry on. I mean, you would honestly, most women, like I say, he's white, most white women would bypass him. All right. And the reason why this is important is because as he was telling me his story, and I've heard this story from a lot of men, this man is making good money. I mean, really good money, way beyond 6 figures. Okay, I don't know if he's 7 figures, but I know he's not 100K. He's in there. He might be 150, 200, 250. Okay, he in there. And the problem is that a lot of women, like I said, they're bypassing his outside and they're focusing on, the other men who look the part. And as me and him talked about it, he actually said it directly. He said, women tend to go after the man that peacocks the best. And if you're not really familiar with that term, that means that, the man is almost being pretty. He's showing his feathers. And so that's the man that generally gets a lot of the attention. However, what I've learned over time is that most of those men are generally the men that most women want to avoid. And it's an interesting phenomena, that a lot of women literally lean down that path. And then that path hurts them, and then they get frustrated, and then they're trying to figure out, okay, how can we bring all these things together? And that's why I say that this thing happens to both, black people, white people, Asian people, all this other kind of stuff. Like I said, I've run into so many men that are 6-figure men or higher, but then they struggle getting women really just simply because of the way that they look on the outside. And many of these men aren't necessarily short or anything like that. It's just that they don't peacock. And a lot of men, that's not their natural way. Their natural way is just to be a jeans and t-shirt guy, to walk around in comfortable clothes. That's just what they like to do. But yet, when these men find women, then other women get jealous of it because they don't understand, okay, what did these men do? I mean, what did these women, that found these men do right? And those women, all they did was they focused on, okay, the 3 non-negotiables, okay, that men are supposed to do: be providers, be protectors, and leaders. And when women focus on that first, they generally do better, instead of focusing on the outside of a man first and then hoping that he will do those other 3. But that's all I am going to say right now about women. You can go and you can look at some of my older videos. I'm not going to sit here and explain it over and over and over again. Now, to the men, I think that this is, like I say, one of the issues, that all of us, that are in the dating space face. And I believe that this also is where you have the rise of passport bros. White men honestly have been doing this for, honestly forever. They have always gone into other communities where those women, put those priorities towards those things. And I've always known that women get frustrated with that. And not only do they get frustrated, they try to get warning. But the warning, and I actually have a video coming up where I'm going to talk about that. But the warning, I think it has to be, you have to lean towards certain types of women in those environments. And that's really all I'm going to say in this particular video. But when you're dealing with someone that is a passport bro, what he's really, and he's not into prostitution. You got to say that he's actually really looking for a wife. What he's looking for is he's looking for a woman that will follow the female non-negotiables. And that is the thing that a lot of women in the West, they don't want to do anymore. Remember that when you're dealing with the non-negotiables, that is something that both sides don't want to do. Men don't want to do their side. Women don't want to do their side because it's hard. That's the hard part. Okay. For women, it's hard to stay attractive. Okay. It's hard for them to be kind when they don't want to be, when they feel like they've been run over by so many people in life. It's hard for them to be supportive if they're looking at an idea that they don't believe is going to work. Okay. That's hard for them. Okay. It's the same thing for a lot of men. It's hard for them, to always put, the woman's protection before their own. It's hard for them to constantly be looking for ways to make more money to help her fulfill her dreams and different things like that. It's hard to always have all of the answers. That's difficult to do. Okay. And in both sides, there's a lot of preparation that has to go on in order to make that happen. But I digress. For the men out here, I don't want you, number one, to give up 100% on Western women, okay? Because that's where it's going to lie, more so with Western women or quote unquote civilized country type women. And unfortunately, like I said, a lot of social media and even the way that women are now seen, because a woman, let's be real, a woman on TikTok, a girl could be on TikTok at 15 and she could be in her school. People could think that she is not attractive and she could get no attention. But then she posts on TikTok, a few pictures of herself, and now she's got men popping in her DMs like clockwork. And now she starts to think more highly of herself than what she should. And it doesn't matter to a degree, for every woman, it doesn't matter what we say. And I think this is the part that I think is for a lot of men that it gets very frustrating, because there is a heart to a lot of men that they want to help women. They truly do. I mean, I wouldn't be out here. I wouldn't try to split literally my, this channel trying to talk to both men and women if I did not really care about women. Okay. I would make a heck of a lot more money just talking to men. I'm just being real. The videos that I talk directly to men do better. The videos that I really go in on strategies for men, those do better. Okay, I can see it. I'm not stupid. And the ones that I do for women, some of them do well, but they generally pale in comparison to the ones that I do for men. And it's sad to me, but it's like I kind of even came to the conclusion myself that a lot of women, because they do avoid some of these topics, like I said, like being humble, like quote unquote, the understanding of settling, because a lot of women don't understand what that really means. Okay. And I don't have time to go over it in this particular video. And then this concept of accountability. They lean towards this romantic notion. And that's how I say it. They lean more towards a romantic notion of a relationship. And the more they lean into that, the more it hurts them. But that is their desire. That their desire is to lean towards the romance. And the more they lean towards it and the more it hurts them, the more it becomes very frustrating for people like me that care so much about women and we really want to see them, do well. And I know some women will get it, and that's what, encourages me, is that I know some women out there will get it and they will make, slight changes, because I find most people don't need major changes. They just need slight changes. And they'll make these changes and then they'll succeed, But for a lot of men, I think that if you are a good man, and I've talked a lot about being a good man, being a sacrificial leader like Jesus, okay, that is what I encourage every man to be. Be sacrificially a leader, all right? Now, when you are that man and you have lined yourself up with God and you've lined yourself up and you're trying to get your money and you're trying to do these things, okay, then I'm just going to be straight up. Same thing I would tell women if I was making a video for women right now. You have to go where you are appreciated. The guy that I was telling you about earlier, he was telling me, like I said, me and him got into a deep conversation, and he told me he now has a fiance. His fiance does not live in the United States. She lives abroad. And part of me was saddened by it, but part of me understands that that's the reality. He's a normal looking guy who's extremely successful, who would love, to treat his wife like a princess, but he's overlooked in America. And he's even overlooked by white women. And he goes overseas, and now they treat him like a king. And while this is not a commercial for men to become passport bros, it is an understanding that you have to go to places where you're appreciated. One of the sweetest women that I've ever run into in America did not live in Atlanta. She actually lives way up in like Kansas. And she lives in this really small town where, I mean, her high school class was like 30 people. Okay. And she was like the only black girl in a midst of all these white girls. And so she was never really seen as attractive. She was never really seen as all that. And she actually is, attractive. But it was because she's in an environment where, like men say, she was humbled. And because of that, she's sweeter, she's nicer, she wants to give more, she wants to love more. She's not looking for somebody to do for her. She's looking and trying to say, what can I do for you? And that's why I've always said that there are women here in the United States. There are even women in big cities. But I rarely find a woman who has been treated well her entire life, okay, that basically, unfortunately, becomes this really great person. Is extremely rare. And the Bible actually talks about it. I'll probably put up a proverb on it because it talks about, somebody being pampered and different things like that. So really on this, I don't think it's necessarily just social media because Kendra G was also trying to say that it was social media. I think social media opens up the eyes so that we can see more. But I think ultimately this has been what a lot of women have just been like forever, to be honest with you. I think there is just a natural desire within women to try to get the best that they think they can get. And they try to hold out until they can get it. And and like I say, that's why it's a very tricky thing, a very slippery slope that a lot of them play, and unfortunately, like I said, many of them give many of their good years to bad men. And that's the thing that I've been really trying to stop women from doing. But again, one of the things that I found out from, really hanging out with CSC is that we in CSC, the youngest person that ever showed up in CSC was 24 years old. And that was a man. He was actually a man. I think he was from Nigeria. And we had another person that was 25. We had several people, that were in their mid-20s. The average age of CSC in the very beginning was closer to 40, but now, right now, because I've changed and done a lot of different things, it's actually closer to 50. But what's interesting is, because remember, we also have Millennials Connect now for the younger people. But what was interesting to me was when I started to really look at the people that were coming to this space, and not just my spaces, people that were coming, a lot of the dating spaces, it was rare to get 20-year-olds, female, very rare. And those are the women that really need the information more than anything else, because now is the time for them to make those decisions. However, just like when I was talking to Ty from the Shy, she even recognized that most women don't have their come to Jesus moment until they're in their 30s. And that's when the water, so to speak, of dating is starting to dry up, and they start to get worried. When really they needed the information at 23, 24, but that's when men are seeking out the information. Even on this channel, YouTube tells me that the average age of the people that watch me is around 44 years old. And I know most of them are men. And, like I said, I'll go back and forth. but I generally have about a 40-60 split. Okay. But I am just going to say straight up, because I am leaning this video more towards men. Maybe I'm just in a bad mood this morning. I don't know. Maybe I'm frustrated myself. Maybe it was me listening to the guy. But I've just got to tell you straight up, go to where you're appreciated. If the women will not appreciate you, go to another place. I'm saying, like I said, here in Atlanta, if somebody lives, and people in Atlanta might know what I'm talking about, but there's like 12 counties of Atlanta. So if they don't like you in one county, go to another county. If they don't like you in that county, go to another county. And there's a lot of little cities. So you can go from one little city to another little city. People in New York understand that, because it's like going from Brooklyn to the Bronx, or to going to Manhattan or whatever. Go to different areas if you can. And if that doesn't work, you can change, like I said, go to different cultures. And if that doesn't work, okay, if you have to travel to different places in the United States, travel to different places in the world, do what you got to do. And for a lot of women, I almost want to say the same thing. If you feel like that's you, that you really are that sweet, kind person, but you can't find a man, I would just encourage you again to, do the same type of searching. But one of the things, again, that I do warn a lot of sweet women on is that a lot of times you will isolate yourself. Like this morning, you guys don't know it, but this morning we actually have an event. It's the first event of Christian Singles Connect, this year, because today's Saturday is March 1st. Actually, I don't know when you guys will watch this video, but right now it's March 1st. So we have a group meeting today. And so I was just looking around to see what other events were going on in Atlanta. And I ran into literally 3 groups that are meeting today, and they're all women. 2 of them have a lean towards introverted women. They don't want men showing up to their group. Both groups are well over 30 women within the group. And I looked through the group, just to see who was coming in, so I could actually make, an analogy of it. And there was some decent, women in there. And again, I find that the women who are, many times sought after will, like I say, lock themselves in. They will move themselves away from men. It's like they do everything they can do to get away from men, the very men that would marry them. And I believe women have to start to get away from women's groups. I just see them as damaging. Because I understand women are going there for support, and sometimes they don't want to have to worry about men. But how can you get married if you're avoiding men? And again, once you turn 22 and you're out in the real world for 3 years, how in the world are you going to meet new men? If you're not meeting them on your job, which is dangerous, by the way, to date somebody on your job. I do not encourage you to do that. And then you're at church and you leave right after the benediction. And then you don't want to talk to somebody that you just met that's wearing sweats in the grocery store. And then going to a club or, a bar, again, that's not really necessarily the best place to meet someone. So you're basically putting yourself in a situation of failure. And so this video today is just matter of fact. I'm just really encouraging women to adopt a mindset of winning. And I am encouraging men to adopt a mindset of going where the women will appreciate you. And I don't care where that is. I don't care what you have to do. And I don't really care if women are upset about it. Because the bottom line is, if women would just do what the good man, not the bad man, but the good man wants them to do, they'd be married. They just would. They just would. I don't see it. I've just never seen it. Like, I know this video is getting long, but it's like, it bothers me a little bit because, like I said, I know right now 2 women who are just the sweetest, kindest women. I mean, they're just, they when it comes to kindness and sweetness, they just got it. Very supportive. But these women will not glam up to save their life. It's not that they're unattractive. They just refuse to do anything. They don't do anything with their hair. They don't do anything with their outfits. They don't do anything with anything. And it's like, why would you just let that go? And then I know women that are, attractive and they're decent people to be around, but they just refuse to be a kind person. They can just not look past somebody doing something to them. If somebody cuts them off in traffic, they feel like they have to get revenge. And I'm like, where is the Jesus in that? Where is you forgiving your person? You don't know what that person's going through. They might be rushing to the hospital, okay, because, the woman's inside the car and she's about to give labor. Or somebody could be rushing home or something because, again, there's an emergency. There's no forgiveness. There's no allowing things to just go. So, I mean, y'all have fun in the comments. There's definitely a lot of ways I could have taken this particular video. I might do another video on this to see it another way. Maybe it's just a mood I'm in this morning. But I just feel like we've just got to do better. I'm just being real. And I feel like for a lot of women to reach their goal of marriage, they've got to make major changes. And they can't avoid people that are trying to help them. And it's just like one person said, even about Kendra G. He said that, I don't know, I never saw this video, but they were basically trying to allude to the fact that Kendra G had talked to Kevin Samuels before he had passed away, and that she was complaining about it, and that in her complaining about trying to find a man, Kevin told her the exact same thing, and she didn't want to listen. And so it's really interesting that most men and even women figure this out. They figured this out, that this is the problem, a huge problem. But it's like as soon as one person figures this out and talks about it, it's like women that bothers them, they just go to the next person. And I've always felt like that. I felt like that in Christian Singles Connect after talking to women. It was like they would listen to this one particular dating coach or this one particular pastor, and they're trying to hope that that pastor will teach them how to get married. And then that person says something they don't like. And then they go to the next person. And then they'll talk to that person and they'll listen to that person. And then that person ends up saying the same thing that the first person says. And so they say, oh, screw that, I'm going to the third person. And they keep looking for someone to tell them something different. And the people that are successful, as far as the dating coaches, are the ones that will say everything but offend their people. They just refuse to do it. And the Bible talks about people going to other people. Jesus talks about people will go to where their itchy ears want to hear. They'll go to people that will just tell them what they want to hear instead of telling them how to get out of their situation. Anyway, remember, every other Thursday, you can come out, you can cuss me out, you can talk about how bad this video was, but I'm still going to do it. I believe in contacting with people. I believe that, there should be interaction. I love to listen to other people, see what they're going through. But anyway, until then, please like, please subscribe, and I will see you all in the very next video.